Today we're going to do some little tags with our reusable mesh stencils. I have this Dear Santa, it was the gnome. I'm going to do it on this red tag I painted. Let me get a blank one. So this is what the tag comes like. It's a birch plywood, 1/4 inch, and the stencil is a reusable mesh stencil that we make here in our shop. So I painted this one red, and then I sanded it because I want it to look really rustic. And then I also am going to do the hot chocolate served here on this gray tag. Again, I painted it really like 2 coats of paint, and then I sanded it really smooth to so that the tag or the stencil will stick to it. These are both a flat matte finish chalk paint that I use. So you can use any kind of paint. Just make sure the surface is super smooth when you're ready to stencil on it. So what you're going to need is a couple of paint brushes. I have a little variety here. Some paint. These are chalk paints. This is the Crimson Red by Waverly. This is Elephant by Waverly. And this is my flat craft white paint that I use, and I buy it by the gallon from Sherwin-Williams. It's flat paint, house paint. So let's get started. I think we'll paint the red one first. I'm going to set this one aside, and I'm going to prepare my stencil. It's pretty simple. You just need some water. To prepare your stencil, you just need some water and a Sharpie. Right on the back of it, before you peel the stencil off, write what it is. I'm going to put Santa, it was gnome, and you write on the back of it so that you know which side to put the backer back on, because this is a reusable, and this clear backer sheet only works on one side. It ruins it if you put it on the other side. So you just peel it off and set your backer sheet aside. So here's your stencil. It's not very sticky, and it comes like this, not real sticky. So what you want to do is take a towel and a little water, and I just spray it with like 1 squirt of water, and then I just start working the water around on the stencil with my fingers. You could also just go dip this in water and get it nice and wet, and then see how it starts getting tacky. And I'm going to put it wet side down onto my towel and get that water, most of the water up, because when it starts getting kind of dry, it gets stickier. These are pressure sensitive, so as you use them, as you stick them to your surface, they also get stickier. In theory, they get stickier, but what you want to do is definitely prepare the stencil first. So I am putting it down on my sanded, and then I wiped all the sawdust or sand off of it so that it is very smooth, so my stencil sticks really well. And I'm just working out all the bubbles and got it down really good. So this one, I am literally just going to use white paint because it's red. I don't want to use like too much color on it. So I just have a tiny little brush. This is kind of stiff. It's not been wet down first. It's just straight out of my craft stash. And I'm just using a little brush because that way I can see what I'm doing. And also to see what I'm doing, the readers go on. And let's see, make sure I'm on camera. I'm just gonna get some paint on here, and I'm gonna paint in that stencil. Now you don't want the paint to dry on this one. This one you want to peel it off when it's wet. So you're gonna have to work kind of quickly, and I just go back and forth. You don't have to paint in the lines. I just go back and forth and make sure that my paint is getting down into those crevices, into the silk screen or mesh stencil, because you want to cover the whole thing. Get that paint down in there, especially those fine little lines. And I just work it back and forth, not too hard because you don't want to start wiggling your stencil around, because that'll make a big mess. But you want it on there good enough so that it's getting down into that silk screen. And I'm just working it. Now if your paint starts to dry towards the top, if you work your way down, you could peel it up a little bit so it doesn't stick and peel your paint off. And then I just set it back down but didn't press it down. So it's just sitting there above the paint. Because my paint was starting to get pretty dry. This chalk paint dries quick. You can use craft paint. I suggest using matte finished craft paint. You can buy the stuff at Walmart. I use the apple barrel paints all the time. So there we go, nice and covered. I'm just going to peel that up. The nice thing about these stencils is there's no weeding, and I'm going to go wash this right now so I can reuse it. And it's not the cutest thing. I just love him. He's the cutest gnome. Anyway, I'll be right back. I'm going to wash out my stencil and then we'll work on the next one. So I washed my stencil. I don't know if you can see it here. I just ran it under warm water and got all the paint out of the, well, as much as I could, out of the mesh there. And then I'm just setting it face up onto a towel to dry. And I'm just going to set this little guy aside to dry. And we're going to work on the next one. Okay, I'm going to put my brush in some water. And we're going to work on the hot cocoa. So I'm going to turn it over, write hot cocoa. Set that aside. Get a little bit of water on there. I'm just going to get that to get sticky. I have my surface all prepared. I sanded that with 150 grit sandpaper, which comes with your set. Obviously, I did the red one with this one. So now that it's tacky, my hand is the test. If it sticks to my hand, it will stick to my surface. So I'm going to line it up and smooth it out, make sure there's no bubbles. And then I'm going to use red. This is a Crimson Red by Waverly. I do like the thicker paints on this. The thicker, the better. It gets in there much better. And then I'm going to do my elephant with the Waverly chalk paint. I'm going to use a tiny brush at first on just the candy cane. We're going to just do the candy cane with red. The rest of it, let me get my glasses. The rest of it is going to be in the gray. Let's see. Get that red paint in there. Okay, I think that's covered. And then we're going to move on to the gray. Again, these are stiff brushes, they're not been used, so it just helps to get the paint on. And I'm just moving the paint up and down on there to make sure it gets inside that stencil. But don't push too hard because she'll wiggle. And I'm just going to go over my whole little coffee cup here. Just try not to get my candy cane too much. Working quickly because you don't want your paint to dry. It's okay if it's got a little smear on it. And I'm gonna get it down here. Get it in there really well. You don't want to work it too much because the stencil will sometimes shift on you. But I'm just going back, making sure every little bit is covered and smooth. Okay, I think we've got it. See, I could have done a little bit more on that C, but otherwise I think she's really cute. Wash out my stencil real quick so I can reuse it, and I'll post some photos of these, how I would use these little tags in my decor for Christmas. And just let me know if you have any questions, and these are available on our website at woodlandmarketandstudio.com. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.